And we'll start with the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion on this one? Nobody's making a motion. Councillor Gilroy will start us off.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we accept the agenda, but I do have a question on it. And the only question I had is, the last couple times we've talked under new business, number 8, we have talked about a number of these things in camera. And I'm just questioning why it's different this time. What, if some of this is still quote negotiation type of things, why is it now no longer in camera but now being something that we can do in front of the public?
I'll turn it over to you.
I think the committees have come to a compromise now on the issues that were in the ICF and the IDP. So
it's really
moving forward.
okay. So this is what the committee saying. Okay, that's all I know.
Okay, any other additions, deletions, comments on this one before we? Yep.
I just want to make it clear on our public delegations. At our last meeting, there seemed to be some confusion on public delegations, that public delegations, you don't need an agenda, you just show up and say what you have to say.
Correct. Was there something that I missed? Or?
Well, yes, at our last meeting, apparently we had some public delegations, but when it was called forward, they did not know that that was their time to speak.
Oh.
That's why I wanted to make it very clear about how this public delegation works when we call the agenda.
Yeah, like I remember there was a couple of people here, and I asked if they were a delegation or anything, and they didn't respond. So,
no, they didn't come forward, and then after the meeting, they were confused as to when was their time to speak. They thought that they had to present something because we had a scheduled delegation before them.
Okay. All right. And I thought they just wanted to see all of the action in the chambers here. That was it, yeah. The riveting action. Okay, any other comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. We have no scheduled delegations. Any public delegations? You don't have to be scheduled. Anybody can come and speak.
This is your time.
This is the time.
You can give us an update if you want, light if you want.
Yeah. Okay, no scheduled or public delegations. We'll move on to the fire chief's report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Long.
The council received the fire chief's June to August 2019 report for information.
Let's grill them.
Yeah, let's grill. It's our first chance to really get after them, eh? Yeah.
Where's the torture?
Yeah.
I don't like the colors you've chosen.
All right. Is there anything you wanted to highlight for us in this, Chief?
Highlighting it, not anything in particular. I guess just make a note that the amount of hours that our volunteers are spending, especially over summer, doing a variety of different things from community functions to calls and also training. It's an opportunity for, with the warmer weather, to get training done, and we've been working on training, getting done, with experience and skills upgrading.
Good. All right. Now, any questions for Chief? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Gilroy, then Councillor Danaka.
Just two quick questions. One, I was under the impression that the county fire chief had resigned, and how's that affecting your role?
As far as our jurisdiction area, we've always covered the county. We're responsible for town and county, and we are operation as normal. I have had a couple of phone calls regarding county issues, and I've referred them to Vic at the county office and also Evangeline at the JUSARD office, and I've also discussed some couple of issues with the on-duty officer as well. So I'm kind of the intermediary between trying to operate our ship here and also refer people to other sources of information for county questions.
Yeah, because I really appreciate the fact that you've taken on that extra work in order to make things flow quickly and efficiently in the area. The other thing is, I thought that the Slave Lake PTSD was that in September?
That's coming up this weekend.
It's still coming this weekend.
I have 11 members that are going to that. Can't have everybody going to it because we need to have people in town. So I've got 11 members. There are 4 husband or significant others that are attending, and then the rest are just single people going. I'm hoping that it's going to be a positive experience for those folks, and I'm going as well, so I'll be able to kind of get a feel for what happens with that.
We appreciate all your fire department's doing, and if there's ways in which this council can encourage your volunteers, please let us know. We
Absolutely.
appreciate all that they're doing.
Councillor Tanaka.
My question is with your first chart, with the 14 alarms calls, that's in the 92 days?
Yep.
Okay. Were they false alarms? Like how many were false alarms?
Basically, all of them are false alarms. There hasn't been one alarm that has been where we've had to have a full fire response, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, I did print off, and for whatever reason, it has a breakdown. I can pass this around later on. I don't know if I can, but this part didn't get into the agenda. But it shows the location of the monitored alarms, whose alarm it is, and I have addressed one repeat offender, which is the RCMP building. They had 6 monitored alarm ranging anywhere from barbecue inside of the wash bay to other issues like that. I've talked to one of the sergeants over there, and he says he will fix the issue. So hopefully we're going to reduce the amount of monitored alarms. But as Ken's indicated before, monitored alarm calls are a big part of our problem, and we're trying to, we have taken steps to, I guess, reduce costs. What we have going on right now is when we get a monitored alarm, we'll send a duty officer, so somebody has to go, but we're not doing a full-off response. It's going to be the little boy cried wolf sometimes, but it's a toss-up between what you do.
Perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions? You're letting them off easy here.
Arlen?
Yeah.
All yours, buddy.
Doing a wonderful job, sir. Doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to receive his report for information. All those in favor? It's carried.
Next time.
Yeah. Moving on to our minutes from August 27th. Can I get a motion on those? Councillor Stenhouse?
The council approved the minutes from the August 27th, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any changes, any errors, omissions? Anybody caught? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Moving on to new business 8.1, organizational meeting. Can I get a motion? Councillor Courtlake.
The council called a special meeting to hold the 2019 organizational meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 2019 at 7 p.m.
Go ahead, Brian.
I just thought I'd throw this date out because we are deemed timelines within the MGA as when we can hold our organizational meeting. So this should give council enough time to put it in their day timers and book that evening off for the organizational
Maybe
meeting.
it's the freedom we have.
Yes.
Just a note, I'm not able to make that meeting. I'll be in Fort McMurray on that day, but I think most of the stuff I could sort of go over and beforehand, so if everybody else can make it, then, yeah. Councillor Stenhouse?
How long do you expect this meeting to last? But why I'm asking that is, could we not incorporate this into at the end of a regular council meeting?
This has to be a standalone meeting. So it usually, if everything goes well, it should take like an hour and a half, I would think. Depends on how much discussion or that.
When do we look at this stuff ahead of time?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moving on to 8.2. Get a motion on that one. Councillor Courtley.
The council received a report from Big Lakes County Agricultural Services for information and budget $5,000 in the 2020 operational budget.
All right. Councillor Danaka.
We already budget for this, do we not?
I don't think we have been. We've been, this has been gratis from the county for the last 4 years, I believe, so. Now that we brought it up, I think they're gonna start charging us.
Oh, okay. All right.
So what this was information requested by council that
Yep.
we discussed at one of the ICF meetings, and Sheila brought this information forward for, and I provided it to council.
Okay, any other questions, comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. 8.3, Intermunicipal Collaborative Framework Airport. Get a motion on this one. Councillor Long.
The council approved the 25% of the operational costs of the town of High Prairie and district airport. And then let that one talk.
Okay, Councillor Gilroy.
I'm publicly on record that we should give the entire airport and all operational costs over to Big Lakes County. If they would like to change the name and take High Prairie out of the name, I'm fine with that, because many small airports are renamed. But I really do not see how this is going to help us that much. All they've done is changed from capital costs to operational costs. And so I'm totally against, I'm for giving 100% control to them of everything and taking the burden off our taxpayers.
Councillor Danaka.
So when I'm reading this, so basically the Big Lakes County and the ICF discussions did not accept that we would give them the airport.
They didn't want 100% control of the airport. They felt that it would benefit both residents from both municipalities, and we should have some say in it. They were quite shocked that we were offering them at 100%.
Councillor Long.
I know I read out the motion that supports it, but at the end of the day, the discussions that we had, we can't afford it, period. And I agree with both counselors so far. I was hoping that there'd be some new insights as to why we would be going this way. So they can have it. They wanted it. Give it to them. We can't afford it. And it just, it's, I don't see why they have a problem accepting the fact that we're broke in that regard.
Just to let council know is, in the 2019 budget, we budgeted $30,000 for our portion of the running of the 10% running of the airport. Our bill, I think, so far this year is around 20, or maybe that was last year's bill, was from the county was 20.
Usually what the county does to us, same as what we used to do when it was the other way around. We bill at the end of June, beginning of July for the 6 months, and then we zero it out at the end of the year to whatever the amount is. So it might be only 10,000 right now and another 35 at the end of the year, or it could be the other way around. It's 35 right now, but there's only going to be another 5 between now and the end of the year. It depends totally on what they wind up doing, but I've noticed that over the last number of years that we had it, the expenses did not change much from year to year for operational. The costs that changed were whenever capital got involved, but not operations.
And they're still looking at 100% capital, not operational.
Well, and I think I can speak, because I was at the meeting also, and they, how do you put, there was a concern of, we're partnering 50-50 on most things. And I did, in the meeting say, look, well, this is a facility that we gave you, right? And so there is a difference there than some of these other partnerships. And I think from going back and forth, it was a discussion that, it benefits our town members as much. Most of the airport use, or a lot of the airport use, is for medical evacuations, and that's our citizens as well as it is the county citizens also. So that was a big thing. We're using it or getting the benefits of that. And it's kind of the spirit of saying, well, we're partnering on town facilities and partnering on county facilities, and we're using those facilities. So, partner on it. They were looking at saying, well, we would have a member on the airport committee, so we'd have a say on what the annual operating budget was. But the 25% that they're asking for would be within, close to what we were spending already, because the operating costs were just a little over 100,000. So it wouldn't cost us any more than it has in the past, is what they were saying. But they do want to see the town still involved and having some input in on the airport. So. Councillor Long?
So if we go through our agenda and we jump over to the fire services, and then they kind of scold us for spending the money that we fundraised for to purchase a vehicle, and we buy the RAP TAC, and now they're mad because we didn't give them input on this. This is not a fit.
No,
let's.
It's expenses related to it.
And so, yes, and the expenses related to that new vehicle and all the insurance and the gas and all that stuff is now going to be partnered with them, and they're upset with that. And so.
Can I respond to that one, Michael? Just
sure.
So we're jumping a little bit on that one, but when we talked about the fire services, when we had our discussion, we said, well, if on the intermunicipal collaborative framework, we had said, why would we want to limit the fire department from spending their money that they fundraise on? And that's what we sort of wanted to take out. And that was, and I think it was Councillor Daneka that brought that up. It said, they're raising money, let them use this. But then when we went to them and mentioned that, the discussion was, well, there are operating costs that you have to consider, not just the capital costs. So when you go and buy a piece of equipment, it's got to make, both councils want to know what the operating costs are in the long run. Because if they buy something that we can't afford to operate, that's not making good sense. And so it makes good, both from our point of view and from their point of view. So from my point of view, I think we should keep it in there. I didn't think about that angle when we were having our discussion at the last council meeting. But once they brought it up, it made perfect sense that both us and them should know, because we're participating in the operating costs, and we want to make sure that we can afford to run whatever is being purchased.
And
okay, sorry.
no, and I don't disagree with the premise, but we can't afford the airport. The same argument that they're worried about our rich country cousins that have all this money are worried about the fuel and the registration and the insurance of a RAPTAC, which will benefit their citizens as well as ours. And they're worried about that little nitpicky amount, but they can't see that we've given them a multi-million-dollar facility. We gave it to them, and now they still want us to pony up. We can't afford it. So I don't know why they're so surprised that we're saying we can't afford it. Why are they putting a squeeze to say, no, you guys, now you got to pay up 25% of it? It's not an equitable relationship that we have. We know that. We try, and we try really hard to work with them. But something as important and as big a ticket item as this airport that we gave them, and now we're saying, please take it. We can't afford it, and we're worried that we don't know where you're going to come from. 10%, 25%, it's a nebulous term. We don't know how much you're going to spend, and we have no say in it. We have one voice. So I don't see the big issue. We can't afford it. They have it. We gave it to them free. Take it over. Run it efficiently.
And they have done tons with the airport. They have done lots, and we've contributed to some of those improvements also. We put in for the capital that's being done with the upgrade, the repaving of it, the extension of it, and some of the lighting is all, we did contribute our part. They were able to use that to leverage some of the grants that they needed. So that was all good. But I guess their perception is that let's work together, right? Let's not just isolate one piece and start going in and saying, well, picking and choosing which areas that we want to partner in and not partner in. We're working together. Let's work together in all areas. So it was both, they just felt that it was not a good direction to go where we're starting to really pick and choose, because then maybe they might want to start picking and choosing then too. So that's some of the discussion, and that it is benefiting our town, and so that was the discussion that went around.
I want to hear your opinion on it, because it was your motion. It was your motion, and it was carried by this council.
It was carried by this council that we relinquish the airport to the county. So I want to hear your opinion of what they want.
I wasn't at that meeting. I was gone, right? I should have been at the meeting because I'm on that, but I was not there. I don't know. I'm just going what Brian is saying. And Brian, is this, so you wholeheartedly think this is the right thing to do, 25%?
From my point of view, yes. I think from relationships point of view, and it's not costing us any more money, I think it's a good way to go. If we need to negotiate this differently in the future, we could. But to get the intermunicipal collaborative framework signed off, I think it's a goodwill gesture for the 25, 30,000, and it does benefit our citizens. I mean, they weren't interested in not having the town participate at all. They were actually quite shocked and surprised.
Can we get a calendar to help us out after this?
So I guess if you want to know what I'm thinking, I did put that forward. And it's something that I know eventually, like even with the improvements that they're doing now, as far as capital expenditures, I think it'll be done, right? Shouldn't be any more. It's going to be a beautiful facility now, right? They can land the bigger planes. They can do all the things we need to do. And they're looking after the fuel. They're going to be making money or covering expenses more so, not. But 25%. I thought I thought it was high at 90-10 when it was 90-10, honestly. But if it's something that can we work at getting out of, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think we should be spending money out there myself. But it is a small price to pay for exceptional service too, though. When you look at it that way, for us to be involved in that, for our taxpayers, is the service going to be there whether we're in it or not? Probably. But at least this way we have a say in what goes on operationally with one of our people on the board, right? If we don't do it, we have no say. At least if we're given 25,000 or 25%, we have a say. We're out there. We have a voice. We can see what's coming down the line. I guess I don't know. Right now, I know. I made the original motion, but at this point in time, listening to Brian and knowing what's going on out there, I'm back on the fence. It's still, at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and that's what we're in with everything else we are doing here. So, I'll have to think more about it. Sorry, Donna. That's all I got.
Councillor Stenhouse?
Well, I have a couple concerns. So we went from 10% to 25%. That's one of my concerns. And when you say that it's not costing us anymore, it's an operating cost. They're improving, they're getting bigger. As you improve, as you get bigger, so do the expenses. Bringing in bigger planes. How is that benefiting us, and what kind of bigger planes are they bringing in?
I could be wrong, but I know they can stage now. If need be, emergency, the bombers can stage. They can come in and refuel here, where before they could not. With the longer runway, they can come in. West Fraser, Tolko, their jets can land here where they couldn't land here before, due to runway condition as well as length. Now they can land here, so they can service this area better, I guess. With that comes more fuel sales. It's one of those things where it's one of those, build it and they will come kind of thing, right? If you don't have it, they can't land here. So that's.
You had a couple of concerns. That was one. What was it?
And the fire. I'm sorry, but that's what caught my attention too, was the clause in our fire department when it was like, you don't buy stuff because it brings up costs. Well, this is going to be the same scenario where they're going to have to improve and our costs are going to go up. And when you say we don't know what it's going to cost, when you say it's not gonna cost us any more, we don't know what it's going to cost us. This is gonna go up. We've already gone from 10% up to 25%. We hashed this out at a meeting. We decided that we would relinquish all responsibility, and now it's coming back again. I can't support the motion.
And that's good. I'm just going to talk on the fire motion again, just because I think what's been written in here was not what was really expressed at the meeting. There was no examples of this, and there was no slapping of hands in any way, shape, or form. So, you mentioned that you felt like we were getting scolded. That was not the case at all in the meeting. In the meeting, it was, we wanted to take this out, and they said, well, what about these concerns? And for me, it was an aha moment, because I did not anticipate those concerns, and they're very valid. And even whether they were involved in those or not, I think it was something that the town should make sure is in any fire agreement, so that we do have some input on capital purchases. Not that we want to hold back the fire department, but we need to know what's being done, and if there is something being considered, that's may impact our operating budget. So we need to know those things. They're concerned with that too. Just like they don't know what our recreation budget's going to be next year, but they partner on it. They don't know what the library budget's going to be, but they partner on it. It doesn't change too much over time, but it is the same kind of agreement, right? It's what they've been involved with for years. We just haven't, as a town, had the same kind of agreements before. But they have to live with the uncertainty of what's it going to cost for operating recreation in the town. There's an uncertainty there. We're not saying it's 50,000. We're saying it's 50% of whatever's decided.
Because it's been brought up twice, I figured I'd better let council know I've already spoken to the CAO about this. It was the fire department society that bought that unit, and as council, we cannot order the society to do or not do anything. We can request, we can ask, but they are a totally separate entity. So if the wording might have to be changed, so it's just something for council to consider also.
Councillor Long, then Councillor Gilroy.
If we were to take the percentage out and make it a hard and fast monetary amount, so that we aren't left with a surprise, they feel a little bit better. I mean, if we were to look at a $15,000 contribution, that's our flat rate, that's what they get. I could live with something like that, then we know, then we can budget for it, we're not gonna get caught with surprises. Again, yes, we have issues with the rec board, 40 years of the rec board, and that's gone, thank God. But it comes down to, they wanted this airport, and we gave it to them. We gave it to them, and now they're saying, yeah, but we don't know why you'd want to step away from it. You don't? We gave it to you. We can't afford it. And if you're going to come up with a 25-75 percentile, that's nebulous. That's something way too vague. So if we were able to budget in $10,000 or $15,000 to get to them towards the airport, and that's our contribution percentage, forget about it. Just this is what we can afford. We know what we can afford, and we as a council, for the most part, are telling you we can't afford this, and we made a motion to that effect. So yes, there was a meeting, and we're not privy to the aha moment, but I can tell you, we can't afford it. And I think council's saying we can't afford it. So they gotta go back to the drawing board, is what I think.
Okay, Councillor Gilroy.
I was just thinking of the logic of our mayor's argument about the people who, from the hospital, that use the airport. Having been a frequent volunteer at the hospital, there are just as many, if not more, people from the county at our hospital. If it had been in, maybe if it wasn't called the High Prairie Health Center, and it was in Inilda, would this be the same thing? Probably not. Are we being penalized because we have a hospital that's in our town? You know, to use the idea of patients is I don't think that's fair. But the other thing is, I'm wondering if they're trying to keep us in there just so they can spread out the liability. Because if we have nothing to do with it at all, then we shed all liability, and they take 100% of the liability. And truly, if it's $25,000 and they don't like it, all they have to do is, if we're looking at that particular extra grant they give us for whatever, have them deduct the $25,000 from there, if that's all it is. But I honestly believe, and this council has already said it, that the best people to run it 100% is the county. They are the best at this. They have taken it over. They've done a tremendous job, and they've done a tremendous job without our input. So why fix it if it's not broken? Let them do the job that they do an amazing job of, and then if they need this $25,000 so desperately from our town, take it at one of the other agreements. But don't keep us in this kind of limbo here with this. I mean, we're willing to work with them on a lot of things. In fact, speaking about further agreements, there is a notation here that suggests that if we do not go with since the museum is not going to have the tourist, we should give $30,000 to improve the website of the county. Like, I honestly think that we should stick to our guns on this one and just say, you know what, you do the best job, take it over 100%, and if you want the $25,000, show us another way that you can take it add it to another one if you want, but we just can't realistically go with this 25%.
I mean, this is a negotiation, right? Like it's a little bit back and forth, and I'm hearing what I'm getting here. Perhaps we can go back to them and say, what about back to the 90-10, which is what we agreed with originally. We'd like to stay with that agreement, right? It's a set agreement. It's less than what we are paying now. No.
Our council
agreed to the motion that Arlen had proposed. It was, I believe, carried unanimously.
Yeah.
That we give them the airport. That was the wishes of this council. So instead of going around saying, okay, well, they want 75-25. No, we want you to take it. We don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. We can't afford it, was the reasoning, I'm assuming, behind your motion. We can't afford it, and this is what our council wants. If they want something else that is not monetarily 75-25 or whatever, we want you to take the airport. Period. That's it. That's what this council wants. We want to be out of the airport.
Okay, but that's not what their council wants, and that's where there has to be some give and take, right? Otherwise, we end up in a stalemate of nothing, because that's not what they are wanting. So somebody has to give a little bit.
Why is it always us? Why is it always us giving?
We can go back to the 90-10.
Go back to this ICF meeting and say, no, our council said we don't want the airport. It was carried unanimously. That is our motion. What do you want to do with it? How do you want to handle that motion from this council? Period. They can either say yay or nay or whatever, or come back with, maybe they have something else to come back with. I don't think it's going to change anything. We voted as this council, knowing what we were spending, that we didn't want that anymore. We can't afford that expenditure. So we're at a stalemate.
Okay, I mean, that can happen, and then we'd have to probably, I mean, it's gone to stalemates in some other communities, and then it goes to mediation or arbitration, hopefully mediation first, and if we want to push it to that point, we can. But I'm just saying, maybe we can do this with, you know, some more give and take, and that's what I'm looking at. For me, I am fine with the suggestion of Councillor Long at a fixed amount, or going back to our original agreement that we had with them and keeping that one in there. For me, that's more important. You know, the money is not that great to wreck the relationship and all of the other funds that they are contributing to our community. They do put in lots with, you know, recreation and the libraries and the grant that they give us for some of the capital. So, yeah, I think if we went back with something else as before of saying, no, we're not budging on this one, I just think that's being a little hard, and to negotiate some more before we got to that point. That's my stance. Councillor Long?
And it always comes back to, whenever this council has issues with our agreement or with the rec board or with the airport or the fire truck, they come back to us and say, we have a problem with this. We're saying, it's nothing personal, guys. It's got nothing to do with the rec board. It has nothing to do with the fire department. It has everything to do with dollars and cents. And our taxpayers cannot afford. Now, if they're saying, I don't know what they would say to it. I can't, for the life of me, think it's got some pretty big kahunas to sit there and tell us that we have to take this. No, you're going to take it. Arbitration? Not a chance. Why would we? Why would we go to mediation? We voted on behalf of the citizens of this town, and it was 100% unanimous vote. And then we're going to go to arbitration, maybe? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. That's not good neighborly. That's not being neighborly. That's not being a good partner. That's being pretty much authoritarian, telling us that we're going to do this. I'm picking up differently than you are. All I'm saying is that we have gone through these types of procedural wranglings with the county, and we keep on getting told that how great everything is with them. But we're telling you it's not necessarily so great. Because every time we look at something like this, the rec board and the money that they give us is the big issue. And maybe we'll lose that funding, and maybe they'll just dissolve that. Maybe we won't have these partnerships at all. Oh my, is that the fair 50-50 split that we're talking about? Is this a nice, cozy relationship that we have? No, it's not. It's not. And it's putting us on a spot and committing us to something that we can't afford. But because the county's saying that, no, we want you in here, this is the betterment of your community. How is it going to be different for our community? Are they going to say, no, we're not going to fly you out of our airport, you got to go to another airport to get your medical services? I dare them. So, it's dollars and cents. And if they can't get their head around it, then they probably have too much money, and they should give us some more of it. Because we don't have enough. And we have to grovel every time to get our fair share. Value has no problem getting money.
Councillor Gilroy.
And if you look at the whole package, this is just a small portion of the Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework Agreement. If you look at the whole package, how much more are we going to end up paying in the end? There are some that have gone up, and there's some gone down. We notice that we're now going to be, they've decided that, for example, agricultural services now we pay an extra $5,000 for that. We're not arguing about that, but once again, they've paid for that, now we pay for it. They want more for the RCMP stuff. If they, I don't know if they did the contract or not, but they wanted more for that. I'm looking at this also as the money we get from our town, our taxpayers, is almost like a household budget. Okay? If I can't afford to get my car fixed this week, then I have to shuffle money from my food budget to there, but I don't go beyond it. And we can't just, in a sense, and I'm not saying we're going into our reserves too much. I'm just saying we have to be very aware that there are a lot of hurting businesses and a lot of hurting people in our community who are making themselves even more vocal now and asking us, are we doing the right thing? And the airport is one area where that $25,000 can be better spent somewhere else in this intermunicipal collaboration framework than on the airport. Is there something wrong with saying you're still going to get your money, but we'll put it against another project that you consider more important? That's all we're asking for. We're just saying this is not a priority, but maybe something else that they really want is a priority, and we'll move that money over there.
Or they'll just take it from the 800,000.
Or they'll take it,
That's 750.
I've been listening to council. I managed the airport for a number of years for the town. I just wanted to let council know that one time, with the funding the way it was going between the town and the county, it was all good. We managed it. We did the cleaning, snow cleaning. But we did have an airport commission with representatives from the county on there, and it had to do with operational issues, whatever. So I honestly think that sitting out of this seat that, and speaking to council, that you think real deep about this, because if you do have a representative, say as Ireland on that thing, you can basically dictate the the operationals of that. But if somehow where we happen to cut back our $25,000, maybe the snow plowing isn't as good. So above and beyond that, you think that the only time that medevacs and that happen, accidents happen, car accidents, you think of it, it's going to be one of your family members and they can't get in there because of the maintenance, operational stuff of it. It's a big decision to make, and then you got to think about the whole community. So if you make that decision and all of a sudden they decide to cut back on the snow clearing, say in the wintertime, and there is an accident and they can't get in here with a medevac plane and it's too snowy to fly for the choppers, then it's a big decision to think of. For $25,000, what's a life worth? That's just my thoughts.
Councillor Long?
With all due respect, my friend, the county is well aware of our seasonal requirements, and I'm thinking that, again, they have way deeper pockets than we do. I'm thinking that not maintaining the airport from a seasonal perspective, cutting back on that, knowing what the services are for that airport. It's not like we're flying to Bahamas. 90% of the time, we're flying out medevacs. And so if they choose not to plow the road and the runway, I can't imagine. I can't even imagine what would be going through their heads. It's their airport. So if they can't afford a grader, maybe we can loan them $10,000 from the firefighting fund and we can put it towards a grader for them. I understand what you're saying, but they're not going to say, well, they're not giving us money to operate it, so we're just not going to plow the snow off and decrease if they do, it's on there, and it comes back to the liability issue that Councillor Gilroy's talking about.
And it's our own county people, as much as it's our people. They're gonna put their own residents at risk.
They have the pockets to run this thing. They have the ability and the means to run it. We do not. So our voice at that table, of one person at that table, is negligible on how effective we can be, because Arlen will still have to bring back to us and say, this is what we've done, this is what we voted on. They're going to do what they're going to do, regardless if we oppose or whether we're in favor. And what happens when we don't have an Arlen? We don't have somebody who's articulate, who has business savvy, what happens then when we have a quieter voice on that council? Or a voice that isn't as well respected? And I know how that feels. I know, because I remember walking out the door here and that I was an arrogant prick from the council of the county. So again, I don't see how this has anything to do with dollars and cents more than power and control. And I tell the council, with all due respect, the county, don't tell us how to run our show. We don't tell you how to vote. We don't tell you what you're going to do. And we don't have the resources financially to say we'll pull our funding from this, or this if you don't vote our way. Again, how equitable is this partnership? They have to think twice, because I've heard it again when we were at the last meeting. So I don't get it. I don't see this warm fuzzy. I don't, and I don't see the equitable aspects to it. It doesn't exist. We do what they say, and this is what they're telling us. 100% voted in favor against to give it back to them, and they're saying no, not good enough. And now you're telling us it could be arbitration?
No,
that's it.
Councillor Courtly.
Okay, it's one of those things. We are in negotiation, 100%. After more thought about it, I'm still of the thoughts that we have to give it to them 100%. But we can do it in such a way that, like I said, because they are doing such a good job of it, which they are. It's a beautiful facility. They've turned it around 100%. Leaps and bounds with it. It's something that we don't need to be involved in. It's going to be there whether we are here or not. It's a great facility, a great service for our community. The county's doing a great job. But there's other things like Brian was saying, we need to put our money into, and that's what we have to explain to them. We're going deeper with funding into like the Gilwood landfill, our transfer site, right? We're going to spend a lot of money there for our community, for our town, for taking waste to the dump, right? That's where I think we should be focusing our, this amount of money right here should be going towards that. The airport's good now. We've given it in good hands. It's perfect. I think we can make them understand that it's just one of those things where they got to run that on their own. It's not necessary for us to be involved in that one. The other things we're in partnership with, absolutely, because it directly relates to our people that we represent. In my mind, so I think we can go back to them and negotiate. They may come back with a different number, and we'll go back and forth maybe a couple times on this. But I think as it stands right now, we're all in the same boat as far as, you know what, we gotta give this back to them and say thanks but no thanks, and that's my thinking.
Councillor Gilroy, just one other quick thing. I was reading the wording here that you have on page 20, where it talks about the airport. What protection does the town of High Prairie have when it comes to deciding the operating budget, approving it or not? All it says here is that we agree to pay 25% It doesn't say that we have to approve it the way we approve other budgets come in here. They just give us a bill for 25% of whatever they choose.
Whatever the hard costs are.
Right. So there's no real protection for our citizens in the way it's worded. I think there needs to be, if they're so adamant about this, we need protection for our own people. And right now, the way it's worded, I don't see protection for our people. I just see it as, okay, we have one person on there, whether it's male or female, it doesn't really matter. One of 4 people who have a vote, and they make up what they consider to be a good budget. They pass it. We go to the meeting. If we don't like it, we vote against it. 3-4, 1 against, and then they give us a bill. Where's the protection for our town residents on this? There's nothing in here that protects our residents as to how much it could cost us in the end. There's no protection, and there needs to be at least the wording. If our negotiating committee is determined to make this to go with the county on this one, then they need to put protection in here for our people.
It would have to be changed first. The motion would have to be changed for anybody to go back and negotiate that differently.
Let's, we can go back and talk to them. I'm hearing from most of the council, we can take it back, go around it again. As far as protection, what do we have for protection in the other ones for the county residents? Because they don't have control over the other budgets either. And it should be reciprocal, right? If we want protection, they want the same protection. So it should be equally worded for all of them, all of the budgets that we share in that way. If there's going to be protection, it can't be just for our citizens and not theirs. It should be the same mechanism for both groups.
But there are certain protections put in there. For example, for the rec department, I believe there was reading that certain things have to be approved by the county before we can expect any money for particular projects. So there are some protections in there, I'm saying.
I think what you're referring to is capital, but I don't know, do you know the wording on the recreation offhand? I think it just needs to be the same. Whatever the wording is, it should be consistent that there's protection both ways.
Protection both ways.
Yep.
And just make sure everyone agrees on it fastly and get it done.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying, and you don't want to get stuck with anything, and they don't want to get stuck with anything. That's just fair for both parties. Okay, we've gone around this a long time, and I think we've got it where everybody is standing. We can start with, we had the motion that we approve the 25%. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Or sorry, not carried. Sorry, it's defeated. Sorry.
Oh, you have a powerful vote.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had that power.
You talk about dictatorship here?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Should we make a motion and take it back to the ICF for negotiation? Or will it automatically go back?
It'll automatically go back.
It automatically go back.
Okay. We don't have to make a motion on it?
Yeah.
I'll make sure that we
Okay, going on to the 8.4 intermunicipal collaborative fire framework regarding fire services agreement. Councillor Gilroy.
The council received the update regarding fire services, section number 16 in the intermunicipal collaboration framework for information.
Okay, any discussion on this one? So Brian, just so we understand, when we're saying that we're receiving this for information, what does that really mean? Just we're saying that it's going to stay the way it was worded originally.
Yes.
Okay, so it's we're going, we had the motion that we remove it from the fire service agreement. And now we're going back and saying that
Section 16 will stay the same.
Section 16 would stay the same.
Yes.
And so that would be, is that the right motion then, or should it say that 16 would remain the same as opposed to receiving for information? Because it doesn't say anything. What are we receiving for information? Nothing's changed. I think that the motion, if what we want is to keep Section 16 in.
As the original.
As the original one. Yeah. Okay. That's why I wasn't sure what for information meant.
I thought it just meant that we were sticking with the original one and didn't matter about the discussion.
But we have a motion, we had the motion to remove it, so I think we should have a motion to keep it.
However you want to change it, I am agreeable.
Is that what you wanted to? No, I'm just.
I'm just, if the council here believes it can be better worded, I'm amenable to changing my motion because I want the best possible motion in there so that we can get this done.
Right. Was that your intent though with that motion? Because I wasn't clear what the motion was. The intent was to keep it as originally identified? And
I felt that what our admin was saying. I felt that what our admin was saying was that this was the original motion, and they were suggesting this, but we were going to say no, we're not agreeing to this because we've not made a motion to accept the change because the original motion by council was the removal of number 16. Okay, so it doesn't change. Their update doesn't change our original motion, is the way I read it. Because we'd have to actually accept their changes, in my mind, to change what our motion was.
okay, you're making it muddier for me, but go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse. We'll start with that, we'll discuss it and see where we want to go, and then we can.
The way I understand it is they gave us an explanation as to why that was there. So now that we have the explanation, it makes sense to us. We're leaving it as is.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what?
That when you go to purchase, that we both agree on it because there are increasing costs when there's a purchase. But we didn't understand that clause, but now we have the explanation to why, because there's an increase in insurance and fuel and everything that goes along with it.
So Arlen, the original motion said that the High Prairie Fire Department shall not purchase additional vehicles or mobile equipment from its monies that have been derived from fundraising ventures without the approval of both municipalities. That was the original motion, or it was in the original agreement. When we reviewed the agreement, we thought, well, why wouldn't we allow the fire department to purchase whatever they want and put a limit on what they could get? And so we made the motion that we remove that section from the fire service agreement. Now, after the explanation, me anyways, and I'm not sure about the rest of the council, feel that that is a good section to keep in the agreement. So I think we should be making a motion that says that we will keep section 16 in the fire service agreement. That's what I believe the motion should read. Councillor Long.
So if the fire department deems that they need to get new jaws of life, the society couldn't fundraise by it because we'd have to go through, because there's upkeep to it. So they would have to get approval, we would have to get approval to say to them, yes, you can buy that now?
With their money?
With their money that they've fundraised for, which we have no authority over.
It's not a vehicle or mobile equipment, jaws of life. They're talking about purchasing another vehicle there.
So we need a new ladder truck, is that correct? Or a new, what's the new truck that we're? Pumper truck?
But their funding isn't going towards that. their fundraising stuff doesn't go towards
No,
it.
in theory.
Yeah, like where do we draw the line as to what they can purchase without our authority or our say-so? What is it that we can and cannot? I mean, if they need a new vehicle,
We're gonna buy it.
well, are we? Then we'd have to pay for it wholeheartedly, and then we just cut that out of the part of the agreement, so they wouldn't have to worry about the insurance and the gas on it. Okay.
Councillor Hilroy?
I need one clarification from our administration on this, and I have one other comment. How much of the budget that the fire department receives right now, operating budget, comes from the county for our High Prairie group? And is it 50-50 with the county for this? Because I'm trying to figure out if they're saying, like, I can understand where they're saying, okay, if my son wanted to buy a car, first thing my son would think about was the price of the car. He wouldn't think about the insurance or the additional costs, and that's what they're thinking about. But where does all the budget money come from in the end to run our local fire department? Does it come strictly from our town? Because if it comes strictly from our town, then all those additional costs really come upon our taxpayers and not upon the county. See what I'm getting at here? But if they're paying a certain amount, they're paying a portion of the money that goes to support our fire department.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe the idea here is, since our fire chief is here, I know he's new, but I'd like to hear his opinion on what he thinks about this, since he's going to be responsible for a lot of fundraising.
It's your department.
Yeah, go ahead.
Seriously.
Okay. When I'm reading this, I think there's a lot of history behind this. We had purchased one rapid attack unit that was approved. We ran that for a few years, and we were finding a need for an additional vehicle. Again, we fundraised, and we went and purchased that one. And I'm not privy to the history on what was brought to council. But there were rumblings that were about that, I believe, because the county council was not informed of that purchase, that they wanted to try and put some kind of a stop to, I guess, free purchases of vehicles. I think that's sort of the intent of that. But in looking at this, I kind of think also we purchased a ATV unit a couple of years ago, and that came out of casino funds, which is again fundraised. That's technically a vehicle. In all honesty, it's going to be a vehicle that's used primarily in the county, so it's benefiting the county people more so than the town people. Now, that being said, we could be responding to town people that are out in the county. We've responded to snowmobile accidents and quad accidents with that unit. So my understanding is it's not going to be for Jaws of Life. Its intention is to limit vehicles. But that being said, so if the county goes and buys an ATV in Joussard, does that mean that you guys have say in whether or not they approve that or not? So that's a question that I guess you guys can banter about. But the other thing is, if you guys approve a vehicle purchase, so we say we want this vehicle or need this vehicle because of this reason, and you guys approve it and it goes to county council, and they say, no, hang on, we don't approve that. Now what happens? So there's a couple of coins to flip with this issue, I guess.
Thank you.
I can speak on the one, like that quad approval. I know it came to our council for approval. I don't know if it went to the county. We've been living with this agreement for years. I'm not sure how long, but it hasn't been a problem in the past with that clause in there. So I don't know if it would continue to be a problem. And relating a quad purchased out in, in Jussard, well, we don't contribute to their operations of the Jussard Fire Department, so why would we have any say? It's a little bit, it's not comparing the same things. They're contributing to the operation of the High Prairie Fire Department. Therefore, as Councillor Gilroy says, they should have some protection to make sure, that the operating costs and there's something in there. So for me, it doesn't seem to make a big difference. Maybe we want to clarify the wording on what mobile equipment is, just so that, if it is a Jaws of Life, there's no confusion on whether or not it needs both county and town approval. But for me, it makes sense, because I don't see the operating costs of, we have a Jaws of Life now, it's not going to change much. It's not a new piece of equipment. But anyways, that's my thoughts. Any other comments on this one? Councillor Courtley.
So the motion is to remove, to leave it in with the,
As the original draft of the ICF.
so they need approval.
They would need approval of both councils. Yeah.
For the purchase of vehicles.
But will this motion
You have that already,
supersede
right?
the previous motion?
Yes.
So we've got it there, so will this actually nullify 31319?
Yes.
Which is actually a dual motion. Because it's got two parts to it.
Well, we
Do we
would.
have to repeal part of that one? Wait, what is the procedure on this if that is what you want to do?
No, what it's going to, it's the newer motion, and it would only be dealing with the one part, and that's the section 16. That's why I think we have to be
It'll be
clear
in the
on it.
ICF and you'll have to,
Approve the
you'll
ICF.
have to approve the ICF.
Okay, but we still have a motion here on the record. You have to do something about that motion to say that this supersedes or overrides whatever 31319, wouldn't we? When we've done it in the past, that's what we've had to do since I've been on council. Because we can't just say this and then go willy-nilly and forget that we actually had a motion there. I think we have to address it somehow. At least that's what I've experienced on council here. So what do we do with, if you want to change it, what do we do with 31319? Do we stop that one first and then put a new motion in? What's the procedure?
Councillor Long?
I'll let, because I'm assuming
I think
Carrie's
Carrie
going
can
to
clarify this.
address that, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, what's happening here is that council did ask for the removal of section 16. The county did not ask for it to stay in, they just explained it. So by having it for information in your motion, you're leaving it as a removing of that section. So if you want to put it back in, then you'll have to defeat this motion and make another one. But right now, from what I'm reading here, the county did not say they wanted to keep it, they just said, they just explained it. That's my understanding anyways.
Yeah, and I can say that the county did like the idea of it, and I liked it too. So I said, I'll bring it back to our council to look at that. It didn't, to me, it didn't make the sense, like when we were in council, I thought it made sense to make that motion, and then when I heard their rationale, I thought it made sense to keep that section in the agreement, in the intermunicipal collaborative agreement. So going back to the question of what's the proper way if we have a motion already made.
Which is 31319.
Yeah, do we
You have to resend it.
No, like you said, if you receive it for information, it'll remain the same anyways. You gotta approve the ICF anyway, so. And that motion, that wording will be in the ICF.
So what we're making a motion of to receive for information is that,
Information.
okay,
The
council
removal of section.
received the update regarding fire services number 16 in the minutes for information. Oh,
But then it doesn't address the fact that we made a motion to remove it from the agreement.
That's true.
It doesn't make it, if we take this for information, then bottom line here is, yeah, we've read it, it's good, we put it aside, but the motion still stands that we as a council, under your move, by the way, says that we want to remove 16 from the fire services agreement. So it's still, your motion stands above the rest as far as I know. It can't be suddenly, oh, well, we took for information and they decide to change it in the ICF because that goes against the motion that we have on record. That's my concern. We can't have both.
Councillor Long.
And I don't want to take a lot of the airwaves up, but if we have our professional fire chief telling us that we need XYZ piece of equipment, and that truck, quad, whatever it is that we require, based on our chief's professional opinion, is going to be overturned by the county based on dollars and cents.
Or because they have enough equipment.
That's why they're opposed to this, because they don't have they don't have control of the dollars and cents to run that new piece of equipment, insurance, fuel, whatever. So we're going to say no, not based on anything other than the county telling us no. Is that any way to run your fire department? I would think not. That's all I'm saying, and I'm not saying any more to this topic.
Councillor Stenhouse.
Can I address the fire chief?
Absolutely.
Can you give us an explanation, because it's to my understanding that the town owns and operates a certain amount of the trucks, and then we are in partnership with the county on a certain amount of trucks. Is this true, or are we in partnership with all the vehicles in the fire hall? Are there some that are town only and some that are shared between town and county? Yes.
There are 2 trucks that respond in town that are owned and operated by the town. There are 2 trucks that are owned and operated by us, but owned by the county, and they are also looking after the maintenance of the trucks and the CVIPs and all that stuff.
So is this not, are they not just talking about the dual-owned trucks, not our own town trucks? We still have control over our own town trucks and equipment.
No.
This is only referring to, no, they want control over all the trucks?
No, they're part of the operation of the fire hall. They're paying for part of that. Maintenance of the fire hall, whole shebang. They put money in towards the building of the fire hall, of this fire hall, the county.
But if the town only, wants to buy another truck, that is our decision only.
Yes. But it's replacing our truck.
Right.
Not their truck.
And this agreement is only to do with the shared fire trucks that we are dealing with, right?
We don't have any shared trucks that we both share in purchasing of them. Like they didn't cost share our fire trucks and we didn't share the costs on their fire trucks. And what this is saying is that if there's additional ones, not replacements of ones, which we're doing right now, right? We're replacing one. But if we all of a sudden wanted to build, or just for example, we wanted to have another fire truck, which meant now we had to build a bigger fire hall and all of those other things, those are extra expenses that the county is responsible for. So they wanted to have a heads up that this was coming and some input into this, just so that it wasn't a shock when it came to them, right? So that's the intent behind this motion. It's not to limit us. I don't ever see them limiting us. It's just more of a heads up. If we're going to do it, what's the rationale, and going from there.
The wording here does not say that it's giving them the information or heads up. It's saying that we're requiring their approval.
Yeah. That's what they want, is they want to know about it. And how else do you get them a heads up or their approval is through that process. But you're right, they would have to know it and stamp it.
So if they believe that there's enough vehicles within the county to cover everything, including the town of High Prairie, and our fire department and our chief decide that, no, we need an extra vehicle for this, and they say, well, we have enough vehicles according to whatever statistics they use, then they can just say no on it. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we say that there was certain things that they did have, like certain funds raised that they did have approval on, and certain things that they didn't? And I don't see why we should change that, really. But maybe as a council, we should do a better job when we are sent any sort of proposal of new equipment, not just the fire chief, but maybe from Public Works, and say, okay, yes, it's going to cost us $50,000 for whatever new pickup truck or whatever, but it's also going to increase this expense and this expense, so that the council knows a better picture, so we don't have to deal with little blips like, oh well, a little extra for insurance or registration, stuff like that. We should know what it's going to be the total cost for the project, as opposed to, and how it's going to affect our future budget, as opposed to just the cost of the individual. And then we wouldn't need this piece at all.
Well, I think there's the other piece in here, and this is funds from fundraising ventures. Like our new fire truck is not a fundraising venture. It is purchased by us, right? So that's not the issue. It's if there's a pool of money, I don't know what you guys have used it for, but it's just making sure that the town and the county knows what is coming, what they are doing with these funds, and if there are extra expenses. The last thing I think our council or their council wants to do is stop fundraising and not let people or the fire department get the equipment that they need to be effective. But it could have big implications, and we should know what some of those implications are. So we should have a say, and because they are part of the operations of our fire department, just like, before, they should have some protection and know what the budget is going to be and what's coming. So that's where I stand on it. It's not a...
Maybe the wording should be added, and not replacement vehicles.
Well, but
That could be...
But this is coming from, again, we go back, this isn't raised from their fundraising activities. We're replacing our own
But
vehicle.
maybe it's a joint venture where they're offering half, so we can get the vehicle faster. So it's half their fundraising, half our town. I'm just suggesting that if you want to put an extra in there, put the fact that it's not a replacement, it's say additional and not replacement, so that we do have the freedom to replace our own, or if we need a county one that's expired because it's old, but it's in our area, we can justify it by saying it's a replacement vehicle, it's not an additional one. Just so it's in black and white to protect us again.
Okay, we've gone over this a long time here.
So I'll keep my original motion, and if you want to defeat it, you can.
Okay, now, is
I
that
just want some clarification as to what this motion is in the
Municipal that we're accepting for information.
Yeah, it's not very clear.
No.
Is it? I think we need to make another motion that's clear on what we want to do here. Brian, did you have some other wording? You were writing some things down. I see that there.
I put that council received the update regarding the fire services, section 16, remain the same as in the original draft of the intermunicipal collaboration framework for information. So all it does, it just says that the original will stay the same. Original motion.
So the original motion, the original is
Number
that,
16 will say the same.
that without approval from both municipalities. Right?
Right.
Well, it's been approved by both. If you guys approve it now, it will be.
If we approve that, except for information, we're accepting that the High Prairie District Fire Department shall not purchase any additional vehicles or mobile equipment from its monies that have been derived from fundraising ventures without the approval of both municipalities. That's what we're approving.
Yes.
No, I said I wasn't changing my motion from the original, so my original means, no, so,
No,
you said you could defeat it, but my original intent, and I said was, we're accepting this as just material to read, but it still means that we're still looking at the original motion 31319 because that's still on the books. That's my
Okay,
motion.
so what you're saying is that
We're just reading this for updates, but it doesn't mean it changes anything to do with your original motion 31319.
okay, so you're saying that the original motion stays in place?
Because
that's what you want.
there is no other motion that said that we're replacing it. I'm just saying that that's what I made the motion on, and so if you want to defeat it and change it, and make a motion that you guys were acceptable, that's different.
Okay, well,
Right
it's...
now, it's just some reading material for us to listen to, but it doesn't change the will
It's-
of.
It is
So
very confusing.
when you're saying, except for information, you're accepting the original motion 313/19 that
That's
it's
still
to
being
remove
relevant.
it.
31319 is still the one of record, and this is just an explanation.
Right,
There's
so
nothing more
when
than
you,
that.
when you say except for information,
Right.
you're accepting what 313/19 is that
But
says
it
remove
does-
it.
Right, so 313
Okay.
is still in place if you pass what I wanted.
I don't get that out of that motion.
So let's,
Anytime we've ever received something for information,
it means it's,
that's just it. It's made.
that's right.
That's all. We're not voting on that because we're just receiving it for information. So if we're receiving this for information, that's exactly what we're doing. We're receiving it for information, and the original motion stays as it is.
Yes.
And then you'd have to make
So
another
let's see
motion.
that.
Right.
Okay, so that's the way we're gonna handle this, is that right now with this motion, if we vote to keep it for information, it means that we are voting to keep sections, or to take 16 out of the fire services agreement.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we're voting on.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
supporting 31319.
We're supporting 31319.
Yes.
Let's make sure, we're all clear on that?
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud? All right, so,
If we defeat this, Arlen, then we just
okay, we're all,
rescind, and then we do whatever motions you want. So it's 3 motions in a row we would have to do to get where you guys want to go to.
Shoot me. You shoot me now.
all right, so we're all clear on what we're voting for, and this is to keep section 16 out, to remove it. All those in favor? Opposed?
Arlen,
Okay. Okay,
It's carried.
it's carried.
So you want to remove.
Yes.
All right.
3 stays in, you're removing it.
31319 is
it's still valid.
still valid.
So,
The motion still carries that you're moving section 16 from fire service.
Yeah.
Unless you make another motion.
so that's going back, that'll go back to ICF, we can have that discussion again also. Okay, let's take a break at this point.